My name's Kieran and I'm from Melbourne originally, and I'm studying 2 degrees at UNSW. I'm doing a Masters of Architecture, specialising in social agency, and I'm also doing a Diploma of Language Studies in Korean. I was very lucky that my mother has a friend who lives in Coffs Harbour, and so she said that I was able to go there and kind of stay in her driveway to kind of ride this out. Obviously I had the option to go back to Melbourne to be with my family, but you know, I just moved up to New South Wales and I really enjoyed up here, especially the weather. I really didn't want to go back to a Victorian winter again, so being able to stay up in Coffs Harbour was really quite a blessing. So I do have like depression that kind of comes and goes, and I found it really difficult at the start when I was still in Sydney, and when at the start of the first wave, when people were really going kind of crazy, everyone was so scared and piling up toilet paper and all that. You go to the supermarket and you see empty shelves and you realise, you know, it's real. And obviously I can't really hoard anything because I have such limited space, so at times it made it difficult for me to get kind of the groceries and things that I needed. And you could really feel it in the atmosphere, like in the public realm, and it wasn't very good for me. It made me very, very negative, and I guess that's part of the reason that I had to leave Sydney as well. I just couldn't be on the streets or so exposed to the public realm and maintain good mental health. It was too hard. Actually, for me, I've probably shied away from social media a lot more than I would have usually. I think, you know, for Facebook, you see a lot of fake news and a lot of kind of uncomfortable opinions that, for me, it's not really worth wasting my time on defending. And there's also a lot of fear and panic that can get spread on there, which isn't really good for me to look at. It's not really good for my mental health. I wouldn't necessarily want to do only online learning in the future, but there's a lot of aspects that are quite useful and that I really enjoyed. It is hard to soak things in sometimes when it's just boring lectures. It depends on the person delivering it and the way that they do deliver it. Some faculty are very successful and some not so much. But I also found, like with my coursework, particularly in design studios, it was really rewarding. In architecture, the way that we kind of present our final projects, in my opinion, is quite archaic and outdated. So this term we had to move to a video format, and I thought that was amazing because, you know, in a traditional pinup, you can't really direct anyone's attention to a particular point on your drawings. But using a video, you can really like zero in on exactly what you want them to look at and tell them exactly what you want to tell them. And it also kind of forces you to think of your presentation as a story, which most people generally don't seem to do in architecture. But if you're laying it out as a video, you have to think of that timeline and kind of frame your argument accordingly. So yeah, I think it was actually very successful in that regard. So why do I live in a van? I get asked this a lot, and it's kind of hard to nail it down to one response, but there's a number of different reasons. I guess the first one would be independence. I really like to do what I want, and I guess I like being in command of my own life, and you know, renting a house off somebody else to pay for their retirement doesn't really sit so well with me. Second, I guess, flexibility. When I did my bachelor's degrees, I probably spent, over 5 years, I probably spent 3 years overseas, and moving house every time, moving furniture and all that, it was just so difficult and so inconvenient. So living in a van kind of solves that. I think money also falls into it, of course. If I if I lived in Sydney and had to pay rent, then I would be working at least 2 days a week, and it's kind of unfair. I don't think that university is a level playing field at all. You know, if I came from a wealthy family, I probably wouldn't have to work, and you know, I could focus all my attention on studying. And when I did my undergraduate degrees, marks were, you know, okay, but I couldn't study because I was working all the time. You know, I went to university to basically finish assignments. That's it. Now that I don't have to work, I can go to university to learn. You know, because in my opinion, if you want to do well at university and if you want to learn for yourself, you have to do what the teachers want you to do, of course, and then you can focus on what you want to do. And to do that, you need time, and you can't have time if you're working like a dog to support yourself. I think the biggest realisation for me during COVID would be realising how connected the world is and how connected it can be if you I don't know, go down a certain path. I did a virtual summer school, which was based in London, and I was taking part in that even though I'm still in Australia. And there was people from, you know, countries in Africa, the US, Europe, of course. I met so many interesting people, and I was working in a group of 10 people from 5 different countries, and we came up with something amazing and something tangible that might actually get realised. Yeah, that never would have happened without COVID, I guess. When I started my Masters this year, I guess I had the intention of putting my life on hold and just focusing purely on my education. You know, I've never really had the chance to not be distracted by anything else and focus only on my studies, and it's really impressed me how far I've come in such a short amount of time by just purely sticking to to studying. So yeah, for the next year and a half, just focus on Masters and at the same time develop my own idea for what I want to do afterwards. Like, I know I want to start my own business, some kind of social enterprise, but I'm still waiting on the big idea, so we'll see.